Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 330 of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Pete Rumpel, a hemorrhagic stroke survivor who embodies resilience and determination. Pete's recovery journey is nothing short of inspiring as he shares how he overcame the physical, emotional, and mental challenges of stroke. From adapting to life after a major stroke to embracing a holistic approach to recovery, Pete's story is filled with lessons on persistence, gratitude, and personal growth. Just before we dive into Pete's journey, I'd like to thank everyone who supports the podcast. If these episodes have brought you hope, insight, or encouragement, consider supporting the show on Patreon at patreon.com/recovery after stroke. Your support allows me to continue sharing these powerful recovery stories with stroke survivors worldwide. Thank you to all the listeners and supporters. It means so much to me. Pete Rumpel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Bill. It's great to meet you.
It's great to have you here. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
Well, December 10th of 2022, I had a massive hemorrhagic stroke. And fortunately, my girlfriend at the time had been a nurse for many years, recognized it, called the people and the first responders who were awesome. And thank God I was staying at her place because it was about 15 minutes away. And it was dramatic. So I've been recuperating. It's been about 21 months almost to the day. And, I'm just tackling everything I can.
Yeah, dramatic. So, what caused the bleed? I know there must have been a blood vessel that burst, but what was the underlying cause?
I had everything, Bill. I had recently been divorced. I was in a high stress job dealing with private equity companies. And I had the kids living with me. It was a stress sandwich, and wasn't eating right. Was definitely drinking too much, and it caught up with me. A lot of what you talk about, and made a lot of changes that following day. So we move forward.
I call it the perfect storm.
Yep, I've used your vernacular.
Yeah. And then it catches up with you, and then you end up in hospital on the day of the hemorrhage. What did you notice? How did it come about? Like, what were the symptoms?
I didn't really notice anything that day, Bill. Now that I look back, when I've heard a lot of what you talked about, it's clear there were signals for a while. When I look back at photos of myself, I'm like, oh God. Like, then all of a sudden people come out of the woodwork, Hey, by the way, you weren't looking good. And very much similar to you, Bill. I wouldn't have listened. I was in my own universe, doing my own thing, and took got the humbling.
Wow. Divorce is hard for people always, right? And then add that to a really high stress job and the normal parts of life, it's much, much harder. Had you been the kind of person who had the skills to deal with that much stuff all at once, or are you just a normal guy who found yourself too far into the deep end and then you had no way out and you had to use alcohol, for example, or how did you find yourself in there? They say that the way to boil a frog is to turn up the temperature 1 degree at a time. The frog doesn't notice, and then all of a sudden it's floating. Like, how did you get into that point of life?
I think Bill, it's just like what a lot of the people that I've heard discuss it. It kind of, in a way, it sneaks up on you. There were a lot of things that led to it, but they don't happen in one day. I had been a drinker, but functional. I had a lot of responsibility, and I always tucked it in as part of my day. But now I was starting to eat out a lot. Um, I had a lot of pressure. I was doing another another thing I hear a lot from the people on your podcast. I was I I was focused on me last.
Mm,
Do everything else first, and that had to change.
yeah. So you're the person who's the most important, but you're the one that's getting the least care.
Yes, and I had a very good friend of mine. I have a very good friend of mine out on the West Coast, Michael Geller, and he had said time and time again, as much as I like to do different things, I have to take care of number one, or else the rest don't get taken care of.
Yeah.
And I deviated from that, and so I was always surrounded by good people that I could learn from, but I got too far out on my skis, if you will.
Who else was around in the family? Was there in a family, an extended family? Who else are the people that need love, care, support that you were kind of also responsible for at that time?
Well, my kids, but they're wrapped up in their stuff. One of my daughters had gone off to college out in Hawaii. The other one was wrapping up high school. Um, my sister was near me, and she is awesome. And she kept telling me, Pete, you gotta do better. You gotta go to the doctor. You've got to do things. I was like, I'll get there. I'll get there. And when I went with a bang. So
So, how did you get to hospital? Did you get picked up by an ambulance? What was that event like? What actually happened on the day of the incident?
yeah, Bill, it was ambulance, and my girlfriend at the time called them to come. I was getting up early. It's about 4 in the morning. I was going to head home, and they came instead. And I was really lucky that I was at her place, and I was really lucky the hospital was right down the road, and she made the call for me. It's basically saved my life.
Hmm. How long did you spend in the hospital?
A month.
What were the deficits you were dealing with?
It was the right side. So I didn't have any movement in my arm, totally flaccid. Now I can do stuff, fortunately. Um, I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair for almost 6 months. And that's getting better, although it's not pretty. And I'm endeavoring to be a community ambulator, but I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. And I can walk without a cane and do stuff. I've even uh, did about 15 yards of a run just to see what it looked like,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a little scary. But again, I continue to push.
We'll take a quick break here and we'll be back shortly with more of Pete's journey. While you're here, I want to remind you about my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. It's not just my personal story, it's a guide to post traumatic growth after stroke, featuring insights and stories from stroke survivors like Pete, who found ways to rebuild and thrive. Whether you're navigating your own recovery or supporting a loved one who is, this book offers hope, practical steps, and a roadmap to resilience. You can find it on Amazon by searching for my name, Bill Gassiamis, or head to recoveryafterstroke.com/book to learn more. Yeah. What's an ambulator?
It's basically like being able to be a walking citizen. They actually time it, Bill. So when you're an ambulator, it basically means you're walking. And a community ambulator is like being able to walk with traffic lights and stuff so you can walk efficiently and fast enough to basically mix in the population, Bill. And I'm trying to do that so I don't run the risk of another accident of a different type.
I love that formal word for somebody. Somebody made up a formal word like that just for the sake of saying walking around in your community.
Absolutely. And there's a rhyme and reason for all this, right?
No doubt.
It's just amazing how you have to dig through so much stuff to find the nuggets that really help. And that's why, again, not to be, too overwhelming here, but so much of what you serve up is so helpful, and it's been a big part of the recovery.
It's always strange to me when somebody says this is the episode that resonated with me. I often don't know which ones are going to resonate with who, but they do. I get some weird responses or comments like that about the podcasts, and it's all good from that perspective. Like I just don't. Even sometimes when I'm interviewing people, a lot of the things don't resonate with me because I'm a different version of stroke. Lived in a different part of the planet. I have a different background. So can I just let people tell the story and then let everyone else find what resonates, and then hopefully it helps, right?
Amen. It's huge because, Bill, there's so many of them that when I was first listening to them, I'm like, I would never listen to that. 2 months later, I'm like, I need that.
Yeah.
So it's really tremendous in the way you break it down, have the transcript so I can read some before I get there. It's phenomenal.
Right. Awesome. Well, um, so you're a very upbeat kind of guy. What's it like to be your personality, to have your personality? You're very, happy to engage with people, talk, all that kind of stuff. And then to be sort of struck down with this thing that makes you sit on your butt for the next 6 months in a wheelchair, but also that month in hospital. What's it like transitioning from who you normally are to who you became?
Yeah, Bill, I would say it's a great question. I would say it took me just till probably 16 months to smile and to laugh at all. I was in a very dark place. I always tried to treat everyone well, be empathetic, but really focusing on holistic healing. And it started to resolve. I was so focused on the physical for so long, which I think is natural, at least it was for me.
Yeah.
But listening to so much of, like you talking about how it changed your life and stroke being, in a way, a blessing. Man, it takes me, I know you said it too, but it takes me a long time to get stuff in here. And wow, what a difference it's made. And I find now that, and again, knock on wood, but I find now that acceleration of recovery seems like it's happening because you have to have gratitude. You have to think about the whole picture, being thankful and all those things, and whatever people's spiritual go-to is. And I look at and listen to all of them. It's awesome. And it's really it's coming.
Holistic is a word that has different meanings for different people. But to make it simple for everybody to understand, in my opinion, what a holistic recovery includes is the physical, the emotional, and the mental. So, for somebody, holistic recovery might include physical therapy, emotional counseling, and it might mean that there is some mental recovery, mental health recovery. So by mental health, what I mean is you get an opportunity to talk to people about the way you think about things, and you get to question how you think about things. So it's about really going into your thought process and wondering, is my thought process supporting my recovery or is it getting in the way? That's the mental
Amen.
side of it.
Amen. And I'm so thankful that you've focused so much on that across different podcasts, because that was a big missing link for me. Once I started understanding that and starting to, and the holistic, Bill, I would even in a way add spiritual into those three as well.
Indeed.
Because again, and it's just been really therapeutic, really positive.
In my emotional recovery is where spiritual recovery lies. So it's just part of that umbrella.
Right on.
Emotional is part of your heart, right? Mental is your head and your thoughts. Physical is your body. So when I talk about emotional, that definitely has that subcategory of spiritual there. That's where spiritual lies, because once you access, your version of spiritual recovery, coming to terms with perhaps your creator having let you down, or the universe having let you down, or whatever it is that you go to for some guidance in those really tough times, then that enhances recovery, and it enables your head to grapple with what it needs to grapple with. Do you know what I mean? Because they get in the way. Each one of them, if you don't handle the emotional and or the mental, they get in the way of recovery. Both of those interact with each other. So once your thoughts about recovery change and start to support you, the emotional improves. Once your emotional health improves and your spiritual side takes takes a good sort of positive path, then your mental health improves. So they're not separate, they're interlinked.
That's right.
Then what they both do is they both improve the physical recovery. Because if you're going to the gym 3 days a week and rehabilitating your leg, but all your thoughts are it's never going to get better, and your emotional health is really really struggling, well, then what's the point of going to the gym and doing physical exercise for days every week? There's no point. Kind of almost isn't. It's counterintuitive. Like it's not counterintuitive. It's counterproductive.
Yep. I totally agree, and I totally see how you're looking at it. Hey, by the way, Bill, is this better on or off?
On.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Does that light bother you?
No, it's fine.
Cool. What else did you have to deal with when you got out of hospital? So one day you're working on your separation, your divorce, all the complications of that. You're at work working like a very committed man to your job, and then everything stops. And then how do you grapple with all of the things that stopped while you're in the hospital for a month and then um, need to be in a wheelchair for 6?
I just, I started doing it one day at a time, Bill, and I was horrible at it. I really was. I was horrible at it. And I just, I was very fortunate, Bill, because if I, having my kids, um, was really important because I was like, am I going to lead by example or am I going to be full of, what, crap? And so I said, hey, look, it's time to figure this out. I had been much heavier, unhealthy. Bill, when I was in the hospital, I made a conscious decision to eat enough to survive, and that was it. So in my 30 days, I lost 40 pounds and have continued to lose since then. I'm kind of set now, but I was over 300 pounds and I'm now 187.
Right. What a difference. You, so you made that decision in hospital.
Yeah, because I'm like, if I don't start now, it's not going to happen. And Bill, listen, I don't want to come across the wrong way. Like I'm definitely a type A personality, but I've learned a lot and I was really up, pardon me saying this, but Schitt's Creek. It was really ugly. I it was not like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was tough. Learn minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, then week by week. It was not pretty at all.
Mm.
And I'm now, as we talk, you're hearing a little more of me, but that took 16 to 18 months to get back. So, and a lot of people to thank for it.
You were 58 when the blood vessel burst. Up until then, how had your health been? Had you spent any time in hospital for anything serious up to that time?
No, but it was clear I was getting further away. I used to be an athlete and um, do things more regularly, but I started having, I just got away from it, and it was a mistake and one I will not make again. And thank God I have a second chance.
Did you have thoughts of mortality? I might not be here tomorrow, next week, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of that, especially Bill in year one, because when you read the stats, like as you have definitely, um, hemorrhagic stroke, you lose a lot of people 25% within a day, almost 50% within a month, and then over 74.3% in the first year. Not that I pay attention to the stats, but that you've seen them also, and they continue to change. And but needless to say, I'm like, what's the other shoe that could drop? Which is why I went so hardcore on changing things. As I said, I used to really enjoy my drink. I haven't had anything to drink in almost 2 years now.
Yeah, that's a good move for anybody, even if somebody who wasn't a big drinker. I mean, alcohol and brain health and brain recovery do not go hand in hand.
Amen. And by the way, again, kudos to you and a number of people that put that out there, and all the focus on neuroplasticity. It's phenomenal. And you can get this thing to work for you if you do the right thing. So I'm trying.
Yeah, you got to create the right environment for it. And if the brain wants to heal and you're still smoking or you're still drinking or you're eating a high carb diet that includes, heaps of wheat, cereals, sugars, and all that kind of stuff, you're not creating the right environment for healing. So you're going to take longer to heal your brain. It's going to take longer for neuroplasticity to happen. It's going to take longer for you to overcome the challenges that are ahead of you. So I didn't want to be that guy. I made the same decision, within maybe 6 weeks of being at home, that I couldn't be the guy who gets in the way of my recovery, because I would really hate myself if I did that. And I wanted to be supporting my recovery. And I made the decisions about food and all that kind of stuff very early on as well. Religiously, I avoided anything that was on the do not eat list. And it didn't matter where I was, who I was with. It would make for some awkward conversations every once in a while, but then, that was okay. I took it as an opportunity to just educate people on my journey, like what I was going through, and not make it about them. It didn't have to be their journey. It was just my journey. That's what I have to do to be better. I've had a serious, serious scare. I've had 2 brain hemorrhages within 6 weeks.
Yep.
And I'm not looking forward to the next one. And I'm hoping it's never going to come, but it still came. And then I had brain surgery. But see, even now, people still struggle with the fact, it's 12 years since my first bleed. People still struggle with the fact that we'll go out to dinner and I won't have alcohol. And they'll when they say, what are you drinking? It's the same every time. It's soda water. And they just can't wrap their heads around it. And I'm not saying don't drink your beverage because of me. I don't do any of that. So I just drink soda water, guys. Just put a wedge of lemon in it if it makes you feel better, if it makes it look like I'm holding an alcoholic drink. But
that's right on, Bill. I have people, most of my people are really people that I've been around, really supportive. They don't say anything. And the reality, Bill, is I drank enough for 3 lifetimes. So I really don't need it anymore. It's not that it was ever ugly or anything like that, but I had my fair share. I've checked that box.
You've reached your quota.
Right on, man.
So what's life like now, a couple of years down the track? What are you still dealing with? What are you still trying to overcome? And how has life changed now?
Well, now, oh, sorry, I should have turned that off. Sorry about that, Bill.
That's all right.
I'm living with my sister, which has been wonderful, and getting ready to move out onto my own, and focusing a lot, Bill, on building stamina. So, as you know, and I've heard you talk about, when I was first recovering, music, television, everything was like, whoa. And I'm just trying to get back to game speed. And I do as many errands as I can. I remember you talking about no matter what you were doing in a day, you were making sure you were delivering dinner.
Mm-hmm.
and go get the groceries and do that stuff stuck. I started out doing one thing a day, and now I go out and I'll do a bunch of errands. I've tried to work a couple times, but I haven't been able to yet. But I'm getting close. And I one thing I've also found, Bill, is every time I get a chance, an opportunity to push myself, I do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way I used to be. And I'm so thankful because there's so much I end up finding out I would not have known otherwise.
It's feedback.
Right. And sometimes the feedback is, all right, I'm not ready. Other times, like I couldn't drive until February of this year. I tried to, but I was like, this is dangerous.
Mm.
So in February, I started driving. I was obviously, as many people know, it's really scary when you first get back to it. And then in April, so 3 months later, I did a 7 hour trip down to the coast and back 7 hours, so 14 hours total. And then in July, uh, July, I went and visited my daughter in Texas. That was a 17-hour each way drive. But again, if I don't try, I don't know. And I just now I kind of appreciate, okay, let me give it a chance. And if it doesn't work, I can always cut back, get a hotel, what have you.
Uh-huh. And go again when you've recharged.
Right on.
Yeah. That's the thing about pushing. Sometimes you pay the price because you get to the other side of pushing and you go, oh my God, I went too far. I am wrecked. I cannot function properly anymore. And then you use that time to just recuperate. And then sometimes you push and it's like, oh my God, like, look how far I've come. I've gone further than I thought. I've managed to do more than I thought. I'm less fatigued than I expected. I've recovered quicker. And it is a test that you have to put yourself through every so often. Now,
Absolutely.
with driving, it's a little bit different because I wouldn't want people to test the distance they can go and get fatigued and find themselves in a really difficult situation driving, right? I wouldn't want that. But anything else, almost anything else, walking, physical exercise, some kind of exertion, trying to work, uh, anything that requires you to use head, eyes, ears, all at the same time. Those multifaceted kind of um, uh, movements or physical things. Then I think it's worth going for it. And you can do that, letting people know that you're going to go down a path of testing the boundaries and see where the boundaries are again, so that if you struggle to get there, you can have them sort of help you out of the mess that you found yourself in. And also, if you're going to have a big recovery day the following day, they know that you've planned for it, and it's going to be less dramatic because what you're saying is, I'm going to go do this push, and then I've planned for recovery. I used to have a day of recovery available to me every time I went to the gym. So if I went to the gym in the morning at the beginning, uh, I would be wiped out for the rest of the day.
Yep.
And I knew that, say Saturday was my day, I knew that if I went as early as possible, that wipeout ended, say, before the evening. I recharged my batteries before the evening. So if we had to go to dinner or something, I'd be okay to get there. There was nothing
Yep.
else booked for my entire day. Now, if I went midday or 1 p.m., I would probably be wiped out for the entire day. So a little bit of planning and paying attention to my patterns and understanding how my recovery was coming along really allowed me to go to the gym and not feel bad about there not being able to participate in the rest of the day. And then clearly the gym's helping. So the more I went to the gym, the less my recovery took. It decreased and
Yep.
decreased. Because I'm never a big weights kind of guy. I don't do weights. I just push weight just to activate muscles and to release endorphins and to build a little bit of strength. That's all I'm going for. I'm not doing any of the stuff I used to do as a 21-year-old.
Absolutely. And I've gone through the same process. And by the way, Bill, I definitely don't. I truncated a lot of the driving story. I did a
Yeah.
lot of work driving. My sister took me to start driving again, and God bless her because she must have been petrified. And it was I did a lot of test and learn to get there.
Yeah. So it wasn't day one, 17 hours.
No, no way.
Yeah. Now, you must enjoy driving. You one of those people who can drive across the country and
Yes.
lap it up?
Yep. As soon as I usually drove. People like, I don't want to drive. I'll drive.
Yeah. 17 hours. So is that the biggest trip you've made?
Yes, since the stroke. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, how many miles is that?
It's probably I think almost 1,000.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's far.
Yep. Yeah, it was far. It was a big test. And I did get a hotel on the way home.
Uh-huh.
So I did all the way there on the way there, stayed 4 days, and then did a hotel on the way back. My sister was like, you got to get a hotel. You're going to need a rest. Sure enough, I got there on fumes. I was ready.
Yeah. I remember driving 4 hours to see a friend of mine, probably about 3 months after my brain surgery. And when I got to his house, I was completely wiped out. It was probably longer than I should. It was too long. That drive for me was too long at the time, but I got there okay and safely. Um, but I was so wiped out when I arrived. It took a lot out of me. I didn't realize the movement, the focusing, the concentration, all that stuff, how much of an impact that was going to play in my head. I never lost my license, even though I couldn't walk, feel my left side, all that kind of stuff for one period of time. Uh, I never lost my license. So I was driving pretty much immediately after I got home after brain surgery, which was maybe 6 weeks after brain surgery. And the trips were close.
Wow.
They were to the store, that kind of trip.
Yep.
But my left side was really weird, and I have an automatic car, so it helped. If it was a stick shift, I wouldn't have been able to change the gears or feel the clutch
Yep.
with my left leg. So um, my left hand would often kind of lose grip. I was holding the steering wheel quite well with my right hand.
Yep.
My left hand was doing its job to an extent, but then it would kind of lose grip and let go. And I needed to adjust the way I was handling the steering wheel. So because I thought that I had done enough driving around my suburb and went to the shops a number of times, I thought that it was a good idea to do 4 hours. And it probably wasn't at the time, because then I had to spend a couple of days at my friend's place and then drive back for another 4 hours. And I was worried about that trip back. although I was up for it and I managed it quite well, in my mind, I was a little bit uneasy about the fact that I'm going to have to do such another big trip again. Basically, what I'm trying to demonstrate is everyone's different, and the things
Yep.
that you have to take into consideration are different for everybody. But that was my version of it. So people considering going back to driving, like like you did, get some family members to sit next to you for a little while and freak them out.
Yeah, I freaked out my daughters too. I would did a little part of a road trip before I was driving to get ready. But yeah, I really leaned on a lot of the people around me, and I was shuttled for a long time before being, it took me 14 months before I was ready to, really go after it, because I tried about 8 months in, and I was like, no way, I'm going to hurt me and somebody else.
Yeah. What was behind the decision to move back into your sister's place for a little bit?
Just to have support. I wasn't ready to do stuff on my own.
Mm,
It was I was, especially when I got here, I was too weak, and my right hand wasn't usable at all. My right leg was a mess, and I needed healing.
mm-hmm,
And just as you said, Bill, yesterday I felt really unusually tired. I took that time, chilled, said no to a few things I was supposed to do, got up and went and hit it hard today. So as you know, we all like start to understand the rhythm.
mm.
And that's why I don't want to come across as like, ooh, got it beat. No way. There's a lot of learning left. And I'm just trying to, push as hard as I can.
I love what you said there about the rhythm. That's exactly what I experience. Is I understand the rhythm. I know what's coming, and I know what I need to do to overcome it. And everyone gets schooled around me. Today, I'm saying no to everything. You guys do whatever you want. You have my blessing. I'm going to do what I want,
Love it.
which is nothing. I'm going to sit down on my butt, maybe read, maybe watch TV, maybe listen to some music, and I'm going to do nothing. Um, and I remember going overseas early on, probably about 3 or 4 years after my surgery, and I had told, traveling air flights, all that kind of stuff from Australia to go anywhere is such a hassle. Like it's such
Oh
a
yeah.
long trip. So I remember being out and about and feeling really exhausted, and then saying to my wife, "You're doing the city on your own tomorrow. You go and do your thing, and I'm just going to chill out and relax." And she made plans to be out and about and discover things on her own. And that evening, I went to bed really wrecked, but I woke up feeling ready to go. And I said to her, "Right, what are we doing? What are we going to go and see today?" She said, "I thought you're wiped out. You're not doing anything." I said, "Yeah, that's changed. I feel great. We're going."
That's great.
Do you know? So unexpectedly, you turn these corners, and you're able to participate in things that you would have been happy to sort of check out of uh, a little earlier. So I hope we're painting the picture for people that ebbs and flows. Things are never really that predictable, and you just got to be flexible and adaptable and just go with the flow.
Yeah, and that, Bill, and I, again, that's not easy
Mm.
for a number of us, right?
Mm,
We're
mm,
used to pushing, 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 but I've learned some grace, and
mm.
I'll continue to learn and try and get stronger as I go.
Yeah. where are you at with work and going? Are you thinking of going back? Is that on your radar?
Yeah, I think somewhere in the next maybe 6 months or so, I've got to see, but I definitely I definitely want to go back, and I want to go back in close to the capacity I was in.
What does that look like? What kind of work were you doing?
I was chief revenue officer and in a couple roles CEO.
Right. Big roles.
So yes, but yeah, and they were big and a lot of responsibility. I'll probably do a different size, different type org,
Ah,
but I'm gonna go for it. And by the way, when I first go back, Bill, I'm gonna do whatever I can do to add value.
yes.
And then I'll figure out where I migrate to and what I can do and maybe get the kind of place where I can prove myself and move up as I go.
Yeah.
But it's not an ego thing. I've gotta get out, prove myself all over again, and then build the track record, if you will.
Yeah. Well, you could always be a CEO of a not for profit or something.
Maybe that again, I have so much to learn, Bill, and I'm gonna put that cap on at the right time. But right now, very focused on recovery and even having this dialogue, as you know, it that kind of I couldn't have done this 4 months ago. Would have
Mm,
been really hard.
really? Why?
Just the stamina of a conversation and focusing and dialoguing, listening, all that stuff. Well, I've never really been good at listening, but but it's I'm just every opportunity I'm like go for it.
Yeah. So you really seem to have like turned the corner. There's clear indicators to you there that you've like really turned the corner. Although there's obviously stuff you're still dealing with, etc. You've made a big leap in the last few months by the sound of it.
Yes, definitely. And it's been again, it's that acceleration principle, Bill. Like I remember reading something, I can't remember the gentleman's name, and he described that incrementally, the better he got, the more he could take on, the faster he healed. And that's right on. Like I have a really good friend of mine named JP. He's down on the coast in Charleston. I just went down and visited him. He goes to the beach every morning, works out, runs, push ups, goes in the water. I walked on the sand while he ran. I got in the water. And at the end of that week, I felt better and I was stronger. And that was only like a week, 2 weeks ago. And he got me in touch with a friend of his that's a chiropractor and Dr. J. And he did these miraculous things. And then my foot that I was dragging on the floor wasn't dragging post going and seeing him. So I think a lot of it is, I know I was looking for miracle cures at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, it's the right thing at the right time, and things kind of come together. And just continuing to try and push. The pushing is the important part. And, like my buddy JP calls it the JP boot camp. And I was in it. I was in it for 4 days. And when he went to go to a golf tournament, I was like, woo, I can relax. But it was all kidding aside, it was amazing. And there's it's just go, go, go. And that's what I needed. That's what I needed at that time.
Nothing beats hard work and dedication to your cause. Uh, it beats a miracle cure anytime. It takes a bit longer, but it beats a miracle cure anytime.
Yeah, and surrounded by his friends and some of my friends down there. It was an amazing week. And again, Bill, it's something it could have been easy to say, well, let's do it another time. Let me come down when I'm better.
Mm.
But he had tremendous grace and let me be me and pushed and always gave me the chance to opt out. And it was awesome.
See
Things
that
like that make all the difference.
they do. See that's accessing and encouraging and supporting your emotional side. We think about hanging out with your best buddy and doing all this crazy stuff. Like that's really emotionally uplifting and positive. And you can see like how much that emotional positivity and connection with other people and all that kind of stuff, how much it helped with your physical recovery
Amazing.
and your mindset.
Absolutely. And one of your podcasts, I'm forgetting her name right now. I think it was Maddie who talked about having a recovered mindset.
Yeah.
Think about you being healed and play that way. And I took that to heart, man. I was doing the opposite of that before that. And I'm like, that's exactly right, especially with what we've learned about how the brain works.
I'm already recovered. Sure, I've got wounds that I've got to dress, that I've got to heal, that I've got to nurture, but I'm already on the path to recovery. I'm thinking about how I'm going to be more recovered down the track and focusing on that rather than focusing on all the problems that stroke has caused, because man, it causes a ton of them, and for everybody it could be different versions of dramatic. So like you have to think about recovery as something that you are, like you're embodying recovery, and it doesn't look a certain way. It's an attitude, it's a lifestyle, a recovery lifestyle. You really have to move towards that kind of version of life, and then everything you do is about recovery. Not drinking at the pub with your mates on a Saturday night for me is about recovery. It's still about recovery 12 years on. I don't want to, I don't want to, I can't be out and not be thinking about my recovery while I'm out and letting it slip. Do you know what I mean? I can be
Yep.
doing both because I'm out. I'm not drinking. That's part of recovery. I'm connecting with my friends, having a great emotional time. That's part of my recovery. So you can mold them all together. You can bring them all together, and you can uh like redefine what going out is about. It's no longer let's go out for a drink. It's about we go out, we connect, we have fun, we laugh, we say dumb stories, we talk about serious things, we experience a meal together, we break bread together, whatever, and then we bring it in. That's my therapy. That's my recovery. You could turn it into your therapy.
Right on. Right on.
Were you ever any good at golf?
No, it was I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Talking, walking, chatting with your mates.
Yeah. And just being outside, that was one of the things my buddy JP brought up, Bill, was getting in the sand with your bare feet, connecting to the earth.
Mm,
And sure enough, it makes a big difference, and it puts a smile on the face as well.
yeah. And how was it walking on sand with your balance issues and your walking?
Good point, Bill. Balance was really, really tough, especially the first 18 months. Now I'm getting better at it. Um, I hit, there was a beach we went to that had a dune where I had to go up the dune, down the dune. And yeah, there were some nervous people watching, and it was great. And by the way, the having to adjust for the sand was very healthy also for my brain. Like, you think through it, you got to walk through it, you've got to, watch your momentum and how you position your body. And by the end of the week, I was really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was another checkbox, another, wouldn't have known that.
And it's a pretty safe place to fall because it doesn't ever really hurt when you fall on the sand.
Amen. And the water's great, except going from the beach to like hip deep, there's a little challenge there. It's a
Yeah.
little dicey, but then once I get in and I can squat down and have the sand, I'm all set. But that was great too.
I still feel weird getting out of the beach and walking. The transition between the wet sand and the dry sand, that's a real interesting kind of thing for my left leg, and the way that it kind of interacts with the pebbles and all the little sharp things that are in the sand. And often I'll lose my balance in that spot, either walking in or walking out, and I'll end up either falling on the sand or falling in the water. But it's like the right place to fall and do it
Yep.
and try and adjust and do all those things, because nothing really goes wrong when you fall on sand or when you fall into 1 foot of water. It's all good.
You're right. A lot better than a lot of the other options, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. um I found myself also in rehab, really lucky that they had a pool with us with in our facility. So when I was in there for a month, uh I asked, can I please use the pool, because the hard floor of the other surfaces and all that was important to learn to walk on, but I was a little bit concerned with falling. And then
Absolutely.
in the water, it was totally safe. So I was doing running up and down the water, or pretending to run up and down the water. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of changed the way that I viewed the physical part of it. It was less scary to do that in that first month after not being able to walk.
Yeah, Bill, for me, I did therapy for a physical therapy almost for a year, about a year. And then insurance, all that stuff. So I joined a gym here in the US called LA Fitness, and they had a pool. So now I do 3 aquatics courses a week, and it has made a tremendous difference.
Mm-hmm.
The pool, oh God, it's amazing. The
Yeah, it's
pool.
good in the joints. It's good because it allows you to float a little bit. It's safe because you're not really going to fall and hurt yourself. There's so many things about it. It's good. Hydrotherapy is awesome. Something worth considering for anyone who's listening and hasn't done it yet. See if you can find a good place to go and do some hydrotherapy. It's
Yeah, and by the way, Bill, there's a great article I read. It was I forget who it was. It was about a stroke victim, a survivor who went 23 years without the movement of the arm or the hand, happened to go swimming and got movement, and now he's starting to unleash. Amazing. I wish I had his name, but
Right.
23 years, Bill, and the water got him going.
Wow. That's so cool. Your homework is going to be to find that article and send it across so we can put it in the show notes so people can have a
Will
read.
do.
That's your homework. Um, Tell me a little bit about what was the hardest thing about stroke for you?
The not knowing the amount I knew was so little, Bill. There are people, and I think if I know if your background might be entrepreneurial, I think,
It is
or
a little like that. Yeah, I started my own painting company 20 years ago.
okay, there you go. People that are like that, oftentimes they impress me like crazy because they go. They've got an idea, they go. That's less my MO. I'm a paint by numbers type person. And it, for me, the little amount that I could read into and be predictive about where I could go was nuts. I mean, it was so like listening, learning. Again, this podcast, great example. I learned so much about what was possible, how I need to think, how I need to get over this because of all the pains of the people who went before me. I got to stand on their shoulders, and it's tremendous. But that was the scariest part for me.
Being ignorant and having us the idea in your head about what stroke looks like the majority of the population before they have a stroke, who
Amen.
thinks it looks like this, and it's always really terrible, and you only ever remember the really bad ones that you came across. You don't remember about the other stuff. So you were ignorant like everybody before you that came and had a stroke, and the many people after you. It's just nuts how ignorant we were. I was the same, and I'd never heard or met anybody that had had a stroke, and I just couldn't bring my head around, trying to. At 37, you mean? Oh, and then I'm interviewing people, and they're going, I was 19, and then I'm interviewing mums whose child had a stroke, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I was that dumb. But okay, I'm ready to learn. So, educate me. And that was, my journey as well. It was the same for many stroke survivors who I've interviewed. It's that so completely oblivious to what's going on around you in your community. Uh, 1 in 4 people will have a stroke in their lifetime. I mean, it's not a few people that it's happened to. It's happened to millions of people.
Yeah. And the amount of young people is really staggering as well. And you're absolutely right. I'm definitely a kinder, gentler Pete now.
Mm. It's amazing how we all become nicer and better than uh, than we were before. That's one of the
Right
best things.
on. Right on.
Uh, so I know stroke has taught you heaps, but I'm going to ask you that again. What has stroke taught you? There might be a deeper answer there that you come up with? I don't know.
I think the big thing, Bill, is the thing that immediately pops in my head when you asked was listening and being present in the moment. And I know there are a lot of people that have written about it, and there's a lot of great stuff out there. But the amount I used to try to multitask and be on to the next thing while I was wrapping up a conversation with someone, I don't do that now. Like, I want to be all in, I want to understand, I want to know the details, and then when I'm done, I'm done. And I want to be in the moment and fully available and on.
Do you think that version of listening was just as a result of your employment and the kind of work that you've done? That, give me the short version, not the long version. The business think is very different than one-on-one emotional think uh, and listening.
You're absolutely right, but I think business think also is what you make of it. And I didn't do a good job because I've had people that have been tremendous role models that I really respect. They listen. They ask really intelligent questions because they listened.
Mm.
And I didn't do that. And so I wouldn't blame it on the business. I would blame it on how I did business.
Ah,
And I needed to improve.
so you see it as just your perception was ill-formed, and you thought that it was still you are still able to continue in your role, provide a good outcome, and now you see there's space for more listening, even at that level of responsibility in an organization. It sounds like it's actually more important to listen than you ever imagined.
It really is, Bill. You sit there, I will sit there and I'd be like, okay, let me prepare for the 6 scenarios that could happen here. But then while I'm doing that, I'm not listening the same way. I'll think I am. I want to be, ego wise. Yeah, I'm of course I'm listening.
Uh-huh.
But if I'm really listening and really grooving with what is being told to me, I'm going to have a better answer and be much more prepared.
So the ego's taken a hit as well.
The ego's gone, Bill. Like, the ego is, I, yeah, ego is useless. Ego hurts, it doesn't help.
Uh-huh. Wow. People are listening uh, to this conversation. Maybe they're listening for the first time. This is the first episode they've ever tuned into, or like you, they're a avid listener. What do you want to tell them?
Feel a little emotional. Don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
Keep pushing. So important.
Words to live by. On that
So
note,
important.
thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Bill, for everything you've done.
Well, that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. Pete's story reminds us of the importance of persistence, gratitude, and embracing a holistic recovery approach. His ability to adapt, push forward, and remain hopeful is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. If this episode has helped or inspired you, please consider supporting the podcast at Patreon via patreon.com/recoveryafterstroke. Every contribution makes it possible to share more stories like Pete's and provide hope to stroke survivors and their families around the world. A big thank you to everyone who supports the show and has left a review on iTunes and Spotify or on YouTube. These reviews are so important to help the show grow. If you haven't already, please consider leaving a 5-star rating, like, comment, share, and subscribe to stay updated on future episodes. If you're a stroke survivor or you know someone who is and they have a story to share, I'd love to hear from you or them. My interviews are relaxed and unscripted, so just come as you are. If you have a product or service related to stroke recovery, consider sponsoring the show or an episode of the show by visiting recoveryafterstroke.com/contact. Fill out the details and I'll be in touch with you for how we can meet over Zoom. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.